entire list of all of the eligible games that could potentially be big. We're also going to take a look at some of the games that are big this year. Are they going to die next year? Are they going to grow? We're going to look at the numbers. We're going to give you your best prospects of what you could build up hype for, build an audience for potentially, so you can stream and make the full-time dream happen. Let's go. This podcast is sponsored by Restream. Why live stream to one platform when you can simultaneously live stream to every platform to discover new audiences faster using Restream.io? You're on.
So I'm going to list the games off the guys. We're going to go through this, and we're going to start off with Cyberpunk 2077. Now, not technically a 2021 game. It comes out December 11th, I believe, maybe the 10th or 13th. It doesn't matter. It comes out in December, and we know it's going to be one of the most popular games of perhaps the next decade, but that doesn't always translate into building up an audience for your live streaming ventures, does it, guys? Especially when there's no multiplayer, which I think is the huge factor that we got to talk about.
Absolutely. I mean, when you're looking at a video game and you need to look at, the factors that are going to make it a great streaming game, it essentially needs to have unlimited content that you can make from it. And so because this game is not going to be multiplayer, it's going to have DLCs dropping intermittently, and we don't know exactly what the modding future of this game looks like. Most likely people are going to play through Cyberpunk. It's going to have a lot of hype for the first 30 to 60 days. And then after that content has been seen by everybody, there's not really going to be that many people streaming Cyberpunk. It maybe will be a top 25 game in terms of streaming, but it's not going to be one of the mega games until multiplayer drops, until modding drops. What are your thoughts on that, Perrin? Do you think that's a correct assessment for, I mean, this is just single player games in general. They just don't make for good streaming games unless you can make a lot of content out of it, speedrunning, modding, that type of thing, where you can basically stretch the finite piece of content into infinite live streams.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare that you see a single player game have a lot of mileage in terms of streaming. This one will hit the same charts that we're used to seeing. We call them spike trends, and they'll spike at launch, and then for about the next 3 months after, they'll decline until they kind of average out at a much lower point of searchability, of basically users searching, which is their interest. It's search interest. Interest will wane after those first 3 months. Now, Cyberpunk is supposed to have some replayability, but I think they stated the game is about as long as The Witcher 3, which is a longer game.
A long ass game.
But, and even if it has replayability, it's still, gamers tend to consume this stuff very quickly, no matter how much content there is. So it'll be about 3 month period, like all these other trends. And then we're waiting for multiplayer, which we don't know. We don't know. So in terms of it being a 2021 game to stream, I don't think it's going to be. I don't, we'll hit through the beginning of 2021, we'll see that 3 month period where, yeah, it's great. And then it's going to go off the radar for the most part after that, I would say.
Okay. So final answer here, because we got a lot of games to get to. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Where are we, boys?
For Cyberpunk 2077, I think it's definitely a thumbs down for sure. Until there's PC and modding community, everybody's going to be piling on. It's going to be the most popular game when it launches for streaming. All the big boys are going to be covering it, and then it's going to die. So that's it. I mean, that's the way every single player game is going to be. The spike for this game is going to be bigger than all the other spikes for single player games ever, but it's still going to die very quickly. You're going to see mega spike and then instant death, down to about 10 to 20% of the popularity of the game out the gate. Thumbs down.
Thumbs down as well. I mean, why are you going to compete with all of the big talent and streaming? I'm talking to you, smaller size to medium sized creators. It's just not going to be for you. I mean, you're going to be competing with every major creator out there. Most viewers who want to watch a streamer are going to pick a bigger or a top streamer that they already like and watch their coverage of this game, not somebody new or not somebody medium sized. So thumbs down.
Okay, so we got 2 thumbs down there. I agree. I'm going thumbs down as well. Let's move over to Call of Duty. This year, coming out literally this week, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War comes out, which we know that Call of Duty is always kind of a mainstay when you're looking to have a consistent franchise or game to grow your streaming. But also next year, probably about a year from now, we're going to be looking at another Call of Duty because we know that's how they do it. Rumor is it's going to be a Modern Warfare type sequel. So let's start with Call of Duty, because I think we can just consider the whole franchise as a whole here. this, I think, is going to be the most obvious answer out of all of the games here that we listed. Am I wrong here? Like, this has to be a thumbs up, right?
I'll take it. It's going to be a thumbs up. So the question is whether how popular it's going to be is all dependent on the quality of the game. That's it. Like Call of Duty, they've got a built-in audience. The Call of Duty franchises across Facebook Gaming, Twitch, and YouTube gaming at this point are in the top handful of games, top 10. They have multiple slots in the top 10 in some cases, like in the case of Facebook Gaming. And this game has the potential to be a big game next year, probably a top 10. Now, whether it's a top 5 or a top 3 is dependent on the quality of the game and whether they deliver the features that the community is asking for. They have a tough balance between basically delivering the old stuff that everybody wants from the past games and like bringing back the greatest hits features, and then trying to innovate and make the series, new and fresh again. And most of the time when they innovate, it actually results in a less popular game. And so actually Call of Duty community, though they may say they want something fresh and new, they don't actually. They just want the same Call of Duty features from the past, just in a newer, shinier, more polished package. So if they can deliver that with this title, it will be a top 10 streaming game. It all depends on whether they deliver the community the greatest hits of Call of Duty, essentially, with this title.
Yeah, so Call of Duty fits the same formula. It's constantly in some of the top streamed games. Despite that, I think it's hard for a newer or a medium-sized creator to break into it. There's really only one or two ways you kind of break in. You either break in very high skill level, you get very, very good at the game, which that's mostly the way that everybody tries to break into Call of Duty, is to get very, very good at it, to show how sweaty they are, to get tons of headshots, 360 no-scope type stuff, like insane plays. Or you go like a Dr. Disrespect route and become insanely entertaining. One of those two are like the only routes that we see. So it's a high competition game, but it is one of the top games, and it is one where you can grow, but it's very, very competitive, and it's very hard to do so. And if you're not very skilled at FPS games, I think it would be very, very hard for you to stream this and to be successful. So in terms of, are you going to grow? Is this going to be one you can pick? I think for our list, I have a thumbs up, yeah. But for medium-sized, so smaller creators, I would say maybe try to find something else, especially if you're not great at FPS games.
Got it. Something else that could be coming out. Well, it is coming out next year, but something else people may get to focus on because it's not as popular as Call of Duty, but we're talking about Battlefield 6 now. Battlefield 6 has already been revealed to come out holiday 2021, and it's been called they're completely reinventing their multiplayer. It's supposed to be one of the most massive multiplayer games ever. But is the Battlefield series big enough to actually make it worth it as a streamer when this comes out? Again, this is far in the future. AWOL. Battlefield 6, are you in? It's like you just said that, we talk about how we want something different, but we really don't with Call of Duty. Will reinventing the wheel here for Battlefield 6 and their multiplayer just kind of level it out? Is it going to even compete at all with Call of Duty?
Oh man, this is such a great question. So what I like about Battlefield in the next entry is that they gave the Battlefield team an additional year to improve on this franchise. So in opposition to the Call of Duty community that basically wants the exact same thing, but a more polished version, the Battlefield community wants innovation. They want something new. They want something fresh. They don't want the same old, same old. And so by giving that team an entire additional year to iterate and to create this next Battlefield, it's going to be a truly quote unquote next gen Battlefield as well. That is going to make this game even more impressive. And I think come next holiday season, it might be like the big console game. And so it could be like that big game that wows everybody with the graphics. It could be that game that wows everybody with the features and the scale of it, because now we're moving into a generation of consoles and obviously PC on top of that can actually handle larger player counts, can handle these new features, RTX, what have you, and can handle better load times where they can actually take the idea of massive scale warfare and then actually do maybe what they always dreamed of with it without the limitations of ancient consoles. So for me, the new Battlefield game is 2 thumbs way up. Wow, if they deliver on the innovation that they're telling us is going to happen with this title. If it's the same old crap, as always, then it will be like a top, let's say 25 to 30 streaming game for Battlefield. If they deliver on lots of new innovations and they take a lot of big risks in terms of the design of the game, the scale of the game, the way that players can jump in and out of the game, and using the SSD loading times in particular and the new hardware in particular to make that experience more jump in, jump out, the new Battlefield game will be just a massive streaming game. It'll be a top 10. Only if they deliver on next gen and innovation. What do you think, Perrin?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree on a lot of that. I think most of it comes down to the scale features. If they're able to actually make Battlefield be what Battlefield is supposed to be, these big multiplayer battles, and they're able to actually do it well performance-wise on a myriad of PC systems and console. And I don't know if it's going to be cross-platform or not. I haven't looked into it that much, but if they deliver on those type of features, that could be very, very interesting. I think it would be very appealing for viewers in the streaming space because it'll be a very participatory experience for viewers with streamers. We know that works well. That's something in the streamer formula, that when viewers can participate with you and play the game with you, that's always a huge attraction for viewers, because it's not just viewing. And a lot of Twitch viewers, live stream viewers come in and they love being viewers, but mostly they're coming in and one of the enticing things that they can have for streamers to participate. And with Battlefield, you can have these huge amounts of participation, more so than a lot of other games. That could be very appealing. So I definitely think it's one thumb up if they're going to actually deliver on all those promises. That's rarer nowadays, though, so I'm a bit skeptical about that.
It sure is rare, unfortunately. Yeah. Delivering on promises is super rare.
But I'm going to remain optimistic for their sake and for 2021's sake. So for that, I'll have a thumbs up.
Okay, so we got two thumbs up. Moving on. Now, this next game we're going to talk about, we actually don't know too much about. We've seen they had a release trailer at the PlayStation event. This is a spring 2021 release. We're talking about Deathloop. Now, basically, all we know about this is it's going to be like a 1v1 playing as assassins, and it's going to be a first-person game. Like I said, we don't know too much about this. The trailer looks phenomenal. It looks like there could be a lot of good content that can come out of it. But as we know, that does not necessarily translate into being a game that is worth streaming. So, gentlemen, Perrin, I'll actually start with you on this one. What do you think? Deathloop, thumbs up, thumbs down?
Thumbs down. Yeah. I don't see anything in this game. It's just another shooter. Like, it's not anything special. I mean, the game looks like it's going to be interesting, but in terms of from a streaming perspective, there's nothing unique here on the table to bring viewers a new experience other than any other shooter out there. And so if that's the case, it's not going to dethrone any of the other big shooters, aka Call of Duty, or maybe the aforementioned Battlefield. It's not, or even to a point, Cyberpunk multiplayer, which probably won't be out yet, but it's just another shooter, and like it's nothing special. So it's not really going to climb the charts that much. If anything, it'll be the same spike trend, 3 months downward spiral afterwards. And I don't think it's going to be a huge spike trend. I think this one has its art style and its development also has a niche appeal. I don't think it's appealing to a wide audience. I think it's pretty niche. So I don't think you're going to see this one. I would definitely say thumbs down in terms of growing your stream off of it.
AWOL, we got one thumbs down. Where are you feeling?
Thumbs down. Not going to work. It's just a generic shooter. I mean, everybody's taking a shot at shooters unless you're doing something completely brand new. Okay. And do they have like a $50 million marketing budget to really get this thing off the ground and compete with the big boys? Nope. Moving on. Thumbs down. Don't stream that game.
Yeah, another reason that this may not be getting the attention is it's by Arcane Studio, which actually Microsoft just bought. So while it is going to be a PlayStation exclusive, I don't imagine there's going to be a lot of time that goes into this necessarily. Maybe if it's a huge hit, which I hope it is, maybe we'll see. Moving on, the next game that's been around for literally 3 console generations now, and we're bringing it up again because in my opinion, this is probably one of the biggest thumbs up game, but I'm not the one making the call here. The guys are. We're talking Grand Theft Auto 5. They've already come out and said that they're going to have new exclusive content for next gen. But is
are
that
we really
going
talking
to be
about
enough?
GTA 5 again? Like, will this game go away? Oh my God, Perrin, I'll let you go first, man. So there's going to be next gen version. There's going to be new content. Isn't there rumors too of some like really insane stuff happening with this one, Ross?
supposedly there's rumors, and I cannot clarify how this rumor is enough that they're even talking about some new locations that could come into the mix. But again, all rumors. We don't know too much other than what we saw at the release trailer at the PlayStation event earlier this year.
I mean, I don't know for consoles like that. I don't think there's a. I mean, they're trying to add some new stuff. I think it'll be interesting to cover that new stuff. But the appeal of GTA has been on PC because of the PC mods. So I don't see how this introduces much like new permanent interest in GTA 5. I think there's like a 3-month interest in what's going on in the console content. Gamers will go through that at a blistering pace, and then it'll be back to what's currently big with GTA, with modding and the roleplay. And that's going to continue to be the dominant appeal to GTA. Other than that, I would say GTA 5 is a good game to cover to grow. Even right now, I think it will be the case also in 2021. So for that reason, I will give it a thumbs up. But I don't think particularly the next gen console versions of them are going to add something that's going to be like permanently a new appeal that every viewer is going to want to see for like the whole year, maybe for like a month or two.
Right. Okay. So we got 2 thumbs up there. So moving on.
I didn't give a thumbs up.
Oh, you
didn't give a
Oh,
thumbs
okay.
up.
I apologize, sir. Go by all means.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a thumbs up. GTA is gonna be it's gonna be a top 10 game on every platform, if not a top 5 game on Facebook Gaming. I don't think it's gonna get dethroned. The only thing that's gonna dethrone GTA 5 in terms of streaming and YouTube video content creation is GTA 6. I don't think Cyberpunk 2077's multiplayer will be able to dethrone GTA ever. So that's another prediction. No matter how good Cyberpunk's multiplayer is, GTA will always have a leg up because it is the #1 game in that category. And as we've discovered over and over again, once a game becomes the mega title in a category, in this case it's open world multiplayer games, they never get dethroned. Ever. Has never happened. And I don't think it's going to happen here. So GTA Online will always be the king of open world multiplayer. Doesn't matter how good any competitor ever is. Back to you, Ross.
All right, moving on. This was supposed to be the launch title for Xbox Series X. It is not. It got postponed. We all saw the trailer. Halo Infinite. Perrin, I will start with you. Is Halo Infinite going to be worth it? Because there are some questions now whether the multiplayer is actually going to release with the campaign mode. So let's play it as if multiplayer is releasing with the campaign mode 2021. I know you were completely just blown away by the trailer. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yes, I guess you can put it that way. So I mean, Halo has a soft spot in my heart because I grew up playing Halo, from Halo 1 into Halo 3, past that a little bit in my youth. And so it's this nostalgic piece of gaming history for me. That being said, the only reason, one of the only reasons this will be big when it launches is because all the drama around its production now and its development. I mean, we've had this trailer that was so heavily shit on, and now they've had to pull the game back into development, and there's just a lot of issues, and it's skeptical whether the game's even going to be decent or not. Of course, it's going to have multiplayer, and that's going to be appealing. But at this point, Halo is a niche FPS shooter, and it will always be that way. Yes, it will have some increase in exposure at launch, but it will go back down to being a pretty niche title afterwards, which actually makes it kind of a good thing to cover for growing streamers. You want to find a niche that has some popularity, that has some growing interest in different periods, but not a ton of competition. Halo could be that after its launch 3 months. So during the launch 3 months, it won't be one to maybe pick, but afterwards, it could be a spot for you as a creator to solidify your niche and to get some consistent growth. But it's really going to bank on whether this game that's actually delivered is good, and I'm skeptical. So I'm going to give it a cautious thumbs up after the 3-month launch. So to let it get through some of the bugs, get it evened out, get through the positive and negative gamer press about it, and then you have a nice, solid community that's very niche, that's not super huge, that you hopefully won't have high competition, and you might be able to actually carve out a viewership there.
I love what you said about it being a niche game. So everybody thinks of Halo as this big dominant gaming franchise. All the gaming journalists talk about it like the Halo franchise, the legendary franchise. It's a nothing burger game now. Like, it's not even like a top 30 game in terms of popular games and franchises in the world. So Halo has to make a comeback happen, a huge one. And it has to fight against Battlefield and Call of Duty and Fortnite and Valorant. I mean, are you kidding me? Overwatch, the next Overwatch game, and every other competitor that's out there in the space. Can Halo do it just with its IP? No, it can't. It's got to make a revolutionary, absolutely killer game. And with the turnover they've had in their staff, it looks like this is going to be Anthem 3.0 right now, based on what we're seeing. All the telltale signs where they release a trailer, they have a bunch of staff flip, there's stories in the background about how there's no direction and no creative leadership. It's the same old story as every big game that fails. I think for me, Halo is a 2 thumbs way, way down. It's going to be a great single player experience, most likely. Multiplayer, I think that there's less than a 10% chance that this game is going to actually turn out to be halfway decent. I think it's a super high risk title to cover. But like Andrew Perrin said a moment ago, like Ashel just said, if you cover it and you're hardcore about it and you're willing to stay with this game, even if it is crappy, which it most likely will be crappy, you will have a hardcore audience following you and you may be able to make a living off that. Ross.
All right. Perrin, did you give that a thumbs up or a thumbs down? I
gave it a cautious 1 thumbs up.
Okay.
Ooh, so we differed on that opinion. We differed on that, Perrin. Yay.
All right. The next one, moving on. This is more of a game. This game's already out right now. It's really popular right now. Is it going to carry over? Is the popularity going to carry over to 2021? Let's talk about Among Us, boys. AWOL. Is this game going to last? Are they adding enough content? What's your overall overarching view of Among Us streaming in 2021?
It's going to decline steadily for the rest of its lifetime. And that's it. I'd put money on that. That doesn't mean that it's a fail for next year. It just means it's going to steadily go down. There's nothing that's going to make this game go way back up. So they're going to release big pieces of content. I think this game's going to follow a similar path as something like Gary's Mod and classic kind of party games like that, sillies games like that, that last for years. I think that Among Us has a 5-year timeline, actually, as a relevant game.
That's pretty good.
Because it reached a really high point. But if you look at the numbers on games like this, and Perrin, I'd be curious to know what you think as trend master. They mega spike, and then it's just a slow slope down over time, non-stop down, until it dies in about 5 years. But that's good. Like in comparison to most games, that's good. So I give Among Us a thumbs up as a secondary game to play with your community for years, as just a fun extra game. It's #1 app on App Store. I mean, it's still big. It's still like getting a lot of viewership and a lot of new people, but there's no way it's going back up. It might get little mini bumps as it releases new content, but it's just going to be a steady slope down into oblivion. So 1 thumb up as a secondary streaming title. Perrin?
Yeah, so even now, Among Us is not a good primary growth game. You already have to have a community to play this with. You already have to have an audience to play with this with. So as a brand new streamer, no. First of all, it's already not good. And it's only going to decline from here. I mean, people are playing this game in my life that aren't even gamers, and they know about it. So it's one of those, it was like Pokemon Go. Like everyone's playing it, even though they're not gamers, right? It's a new fad. Fads, we know, die after a while. And when they die hard, though. So 5 years, I think, is really optimistic. I think this is going to die a lot harder in the next year or so. But for now, the popularity of the fad is continuing to keep it going. And it's a nice social game while we're all stuck still dealing with coronavirus. It's not a good game to grow on, though. If you're looking for a new audience, it's good to highly engage your current loyal viewers. So for that, actually, in terms of best game to stream to grow, I'm actually going to give that a thumbs down, just because it's not great to grow. It's great for engagement and increasing audience loyalty, and so that's a different thing. So that's I actually am going to give that thumbs down. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I like your Pokemon Go comparison there because it is very similar in the style, like you said, where everybody's playing it. People who aren't gamers. It's just something good and fun to play. Moving on, I actually don't know too much about this game. AWOL, I know you've brought this up a couple times. Let's talk about Skull and Bones. I know this is going to have I believe it's going to have multiplayer to it. It looks very interesting. It looks like a pirate game that we've been kind of waiting for, maybe since Black Flag. What are your thoughts on Skull and Bones as a potential game to grow your channel in 2021?
Yeah, I'm going to leave the footage up here so you guys can check it out. Most of you probably aren't even familiar with this game, that it even exists, because there hasn't been much marketing behind it. But pirate themes, turns out, people like them. And the biggest pirate game on the market right now is Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves had a rocky launch, but then it improved over time as they added more content. Skull and Bones promises to be a Sea of Thieves, if you will, but much more hardcore, much more realistic, a lot more involved with PvP, with upgrades, with a competitive scene, and with a whole open water scene here in the game. And so it's looking to combine elements of an open world game with more competitive PvP, but also having the cooperative elements of a Sea of Thieves. So so does that sound like a really ambitious game? Yes. Red flag, pirate flag, games that seem too ambitious that are trying to combine all these different genres and all of these different ideas together, either try to do it all and then fail because it's going to be packed full of bugs, or they try to do it all, but they strip so many pieces off of that idea they don't actually fully realize the vision of the game until years later, and so then it fails for that reason. So if Skull and Bones delivers on the promise of the game, like I described, an amazing open water game, cooperative gameplay like Sea of Thieves, and then competitive PvP at the same time, 2 gigantic cartoon large size thumbs ups for this game. It's going to be freaking unbelievable. But more likely than not, they aren't going to deliver on that vision. It's Ubisoft. They suck at delivering on what they promise. So that's my opinion. And also, it's probably going to be jam-packed with microtransactions, y'all. So cautiously optimistic is what I'd say about this one. It's either 2 thumbs way up or big stinky doo-doo game. What do you think, Perrin?
I think even if it fails to deliver on most of its promise, you could again maybe carve out a small niche and build up an audience off of it, whether this succeeds or fails. Because really the only time period where like you would invest and totally bomb off this, if the game just like totally bombs and tanks as hard as Anthem has. I don't think it'll tank that hard. I could be wrong, but I don't think it will. Ubisoft is a little bit more competent than BioWare, not by much, but a little bit.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
So I think they'll at least be able to deliver on an actual game. And if that's the case, I think it'll be niche enough.
The bar's low these days, huh?
You could cover it and carve out an audience well enough, even if it's pretty bad. And you could actually get when that event happens. By the way, when you have this kind of community thing that happens with a game where the game's really bad and most popular people abandon it, guess what? People still play that game after that point. And that's a period of time where you have zero competition and you've got viewers who are looking for streamers, but like everybody abandoned it. That's actually a time period where you can pick up audience, but you have to be willing to play a game that's either broken AF or like scuffed in some sort of terrible way, and you have to deal with that, right? So I give it like I don't really know much about the game, but I'll give it a thumbs up for potential. I think you could carve an audience out on it, whether it lives or whether it succeeds or fails, if you're smart about it.
All right, moving on. Let's get through these next 2 because, Perrin, you got a stream to get to, man. Let's start with Gotham Knights. These last 2 coming out in 2021. I don't think there's a specific release date yet. This is a multiplayer game. It's a Batman game that does not have Batman. And essentially, you're going to be playing as, I think, Red Hood, Nightwing, Robin, and Batwoman. And it's 4-player, multiplayer. I think that you can do the missions on their own. I personally don't feel like this is going to be a great choice, but we have it on the list because it's still going to be a popular game. Am I wrong, AWOL?
Thumbs way down. Way down. So can you recall any licensed IP games that have become big, popular streaming games? All the Star Wars games fail in terms of streaming. All the Marvel-related games fail in terms of streaming. All the Lego games fail in terms of streaming. All the DC games fail in terms of streaming. When companies license IPs, when they license intellectual property, those games never work out in terms of streaming. So thumbs way down. Whenever you see a licensed IP, instant failure. The only way that games work when you're creating an IP and then you're looking to create a game that's got infinite content in it, you have to own that IP. And if you don't, it's not going to have infinite content. It's not going to be interesting over time, and you can't take full creative liberty with it as a developer and as a publisher. So this is a note for everybody who stayed later in the podcast through the audio issues. Thank you for that. Anytime you see a licensed IP, DC, Marvel, Star Wars, you name it, fail. Back to you, Perrin.
I mean, a Batman game without Batman is just asking for failure. I'm sorry, it just is.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are like excited about this game, that's great. But it's going to be super niche, more niche than the Batman series already is. Like way more niche. I'd say 70 to 80% more niche. So like, there's no point. I mean, it's not going to be a successful game. Honestly, I don't even know why they're developing it. It's not a great concept to begin with. It just, Batman without Batman, it just doesn't make sense. It's not going to be as appealing. It's just not going to be as appealing. And so for that reason, it's not going to be as viewed, and it's not going to have as much search interest. 2 thumbs way down.
So down.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know that the trailer doesn't show Batman because the whole aspect of the story. And by the way, this is not a continuation of the past Batman games, even though it's literally the same exact plot, essentially. I still think you can't have a Batman game without Batman. So I think Batman is going to find his way into this game, especially if the game's not selling and they got to start raking in the cash there. Last game on the list for today. You guys both have a lot of history in covering the original title. Let's talk about Overwatch 2. Now, we know it's coming out next year. I don't think we have an exact release date, so it still could be postponed. It's going to, we've seen they had like an 8-minute campaign trailer that looks awesome, but is the multiplayer from Overwatch going to differentiate from the first one enough to make it worth streaming in 2021? Perrin, let's start with you.
Streaming? I mean, I think for creators who've already have an audience for Overwatch, of course, Overwatch 2. If you're coming in and you're trying to be a brand new streamer and you want to use Overwatch 2 to jump in and grow, it's going to be hard because Blizzard streamers and Blizzard creators are a specific different bunch where they all already have all these resources and access, and they will compete and win versus you every single time. So if you aren't already in that Blizzard in club, you're not going to get anything off this at all. You have maybe you can work your way up, but it's going to take a ton of grinding, and it's a ton of uphill climb where the competition just has way better access and way better resources than you. I would argue there are much better choices out there. I don't think for new streamers, Overwatch 2 is going to be good at all. I would definitely give it a thumbs down. I think if you already have some Blizzard audience and you've carved out some of that and you might already have access to some resources via Blizzard, then yeah, this will be huge for you. But I'm going to assume that most of you don't have that and say thumbs down.
Yeah. So as somebody who covered Overwatch pre-launch on my own channel, I actually got like 1 million views off of Overwatch videos on my personal channel, and then built TGN channel off of Overwatch, and that channel got, I don't know, over 100 million views off of Overwatch at least. I got to know that team really well. They flew us out to Blizzard HQ before the game launched. I still email with Jeff Kaplan from time to time. Like they're an amazing team making an amazing game, and it's such a great IP. And I've got a deep connection with Overwatch, and I love it. That being said, this is like a no growth opportunity for most new creators. So Overwatch 2 is not going to offer much that is new in terms of multiplayer content. It's going to be a graphical upgrade. They're taking what they already have and making it next gen, if you will, or making it at least able to roll with the next gen. The PvE content in the game will be interesting for the first 30 days, and then it'll die out in terms of streaming. And then you're just going to be sitting with the regular Overwatch game, which is, arguably the smoothest and most polished competitive shooter of all time. So if you like the smoothest and most polished competitive shooter of all time right now, then you're going to like it with Overwatch 2, but it's not going to change much. And so Overwatch is going to be solid. It's going to steadily decline over time in terms of popularity. It's going to see a mini spike with Overwatch 2 because everybody's going to want to check out the new content and the new graphics. And then it's going to steadily continue to just decline and go down over time. That's just how it is. This is an IP that's strong, but it's just going to keep dying. Overwatch 2 is not going to revive it in any meaningful way because there are no major innovations with Overwatch 2 versus Overwatch 1 that I've seen be announced. Maybe there's some big creative change. Maybe Jeff's got something up his sleeve, whatever, but it's just going to continue to decline. They're going to have to come up with they're going to have a new Overwatch game to have this franchise go back up. So that's my opinion on it. So Overwatch is thumbs up if you're already covering Overwatch, like Perrin said. And if you're not, I don't know. You probably aren't going to make it. That's my opinion.
There you go. By the way, no matter what game you're streaming, you should be restreaming using restream.io. I'm going to drop a link in the comments down here. So you can get 30% off your first month. In no time, you'll be streaming on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Gaming, Trovo, Do Live, Periscope, so many other platforms that you may not have even heard of. We're doing it right now on this podcast, and you should too. Use code DROP1 when you sign up